Welcome ladies and gents to another DLC video. Today I'm going to be giving my very early thoughts on both the two heists within the Bomb Heist DLC pack and the Dragan character pack. Before we get onto that, I have a little build going on here which is so much fun to mess around with. If you're a quick pauser, you can check this out yourself. It is an Infiltrator setup, so Infiltrator is the perk deck I have chosen, and I work this whole skill tree around it. It may not be the most powerful setup, but it's an awful lot of fun. The idea is it's an incredible glass tank build. You don't have the dodge that Rogue provides, but you're still running a suit, so that you're very, very easy to take down. Therefore, there's skills like Bullseye in there to try and maintain my armor, take a couple of extra shots. Plus, we have the lifesteal ability within the perk deck itself. There's an awful lot going on with this build. It's very complex, quite difficult to work around, but it means the Freedom Spear, which is my melee weapon of choice, as you're seeing in this video, actually becomes one of the only maybe 3 or 4 weapons that can in fact one-shot the Death Wish Cloaker, which is insane. There are very few weapons that can do that. Most of them are snipers, and the Freedom Spear, apparently. The Freedom Spear is perfect, by the way. It's the reason why I choose it as my melee weapon is because not only is it a reasonably strong melee weapon on its own, it also has a solid enough attack speed alongside a great base damage to really work the passives within the Infiltrator perk deck and shoot that damage as high as I possibly can. I hope you enjoy the gameplay. It is, of course, one of the 2 Bomb Heist missions. It is the Forest version, which has so far been my favorite. I really like it. It was the first one I tried out, and it just looks beautiful. But I'm not going to talk about that too much right now. We're going to get into all the ins and outs of the heist in just a moment. I'm actually going to start off by talking about the Dragan character pack. So, Dragan, what do I think of you? First of all, I love your voice. I love how this character speaks in Croatian a lot. I actually find that as quite an endearing characteristic. There's something about this character that I feel maybe most emanates from Chains. I would say he knows what's going on. He's certainly no madman, but he's also definitely got violent tendencies. He gets very angry, very emotional, and he's a bit of a screamer at times, but he's also, there's just this feeling of refinement around him, which maybe Clover and Wolf lack, even though I do enjoy their screaming. So he really has shut up in my estimates. I'm a huge fan of Dragan as a character, which I know for some of you is important. He's an aesthetically good-looking character as well, which does make a difference, even though I say it shouldn't. Now, let's talk about what he brings with him, because I'm actually quite impressed. Now, the Queen's Wrath, which came with the Clover DLC, and you're going to see lots of comparisons because there's only 2 character packs out there, and I've got to draw parallels. And I've actually criticized the Clover DLC a little bit. I do like Clover, and I do think the DLC was a solid one. It did bring some new ideas to the table, but nothing like what the Dragan character pack has. Now, the Lion's Roar is probably just better than the Queen's Wrath, I would say. It feels good to handle the same way when you work the Clarion Rifle, the FAMAS. It just feels good. Now, you definitely will feel the low stability, and occasionally the accuracy and kick on this weapon can be a problem, but I've not really experienced it. I just find myself very comfortable with the weapon. It's got a good damage per second rate. Not the best ammo pickup, not the best reload time, but its overall ammo is not bad at all, and overall it's just another versatile assault rifle. Do I prefer it to the Car 4? Maybe. Maybe I do. Do I think it's better? No, but does it suit my taste slightly more? Yeah, there's something just slightly more skillful, I feel, about using this weapon over the Car 4 that made me quite addicted to using it. Anyway, that's that for the Lion's Roar. A really solid all-around weapon. Definitely could be in my top 10, I think. Seeing as how the Car 4 was as a personal list. However, I do have to admit there are better weapons out there that were probably already in the base game if you think about it. Then we have the melee weapon. Now, my favourite part of the Clover DLC, other than Clover herself, was actually her Shillelagh. It's not a bad melee weapon at all. Dragan's Cleaver is also not a bad melee weapon. It's all around quite average, but does have a nice quite fast attack speed, short charge time. You can work that charge time quite nicely, giving you enough damage to take out some of the heavier cops, even on overkill. So it's not a bad melee weapon. However, I have a slight problem. We already have the cleaver knife added in the Hotline Miami DLC, so nothing really new. This cleaver looks better, in my opinion. It really does. It's a nicely modeled weapon. I do like the curvature of it. It just looks a little nicer than the slightly bland cleaver knife added in Hotline Miami. And it's probably an ever so slightly better weapon. I feel it swings a little faster and handles slightly better. But the difference is so minimal that it was not the most exciting release. Again, I would have rather had something more interesting, like we got the Shillelagh, something that works slightly better with his Infiltrator perk deck, which I'll obviously get onto later. I've already talked about it briefly, but in case you're not aware, I love it. I love lots of elements of it. It's not as powerful as maybe it could be and should be, but it's also not weak. There are certainly perk decks worse than it, and while it doesn't dethrone Rogue or anything, it's certainly more to my taste than a lot of these other perk decks. So that certainly shoots it up in my estimates. Makes it difficult. This is by no means a review. This is a first look at, really. I'm not coming up with any conclusions. I've only had a day and a half with the DLCs, so be aware I need more time before I make a full review, but I thought it was worth it because these DLCs, not to give too much away, have stepped it up a notch. I feel it's worth it to let you guys know sooner rather than later. But again, if you're still not sure, sitting on the fence, wait for a fully comprehensive review and make sure you try out the heists themselves first. Anyway, the mask. Do I like it? Yeah, I really do. I talked about this when we saw it on the webpage itself. I really like Dragan's mask, and I don't know why. There's something about it that suits him in the same way Hopston's mask, or I should say Houston's mask suits Houston, and Dallas's mask suits Dallas. There's something inherent about it. The way Dallas has, of course, the stars and stripes, it suits his personality, and in the same way, this mask suits the personality you get when you're playing the character. And so, yes, I am a huge fan, and it's definitely one fun and pleasant to customize. So, good aesthetic job on the whole with Dragan altogether. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail about the perk deck. I've already said I like it, but some of the standout skills I may have already mentioned. Life Drain, giving you 10% of your health every 15 seconds when you melee a guy. That's really not too bad. If you happen to be someone who chooses to run, instead of medic kits or first aid meds, sentry gun or ammo, you will feel this. However, if you use first aid meds, I have to admit, it does feel just a little useless when you've got 14 of them and it's so easy to drop them down and take them. So it's not the best perk deck skill, but remember, perk decks are limited in what they offer. They're more like the old tier bonuses. However, Overdog and Expert Close Combat not only offer you more resistance, which is excellent, the additional 10% damage boost over 6 seconds that can stack up to 4 times is huge. It's really quite good. 40% additional damage from both scaling on what it brings it up to, if you know what I mean. So you get 10% off the original value and then an additional 10% off that value. Things can get out of hand quite quickly, especially with the higher damage melee weapons. That's what you're seeing in this video, especially if I roll crit. It's crazy how much damage the Spear of Freedom can do. They're the main standout skills. Again, you're looking at resistance, which is not very powerful. If you're going to run resistance, you may as well be in a tanky build, which is, just so you know, my new melee build is going to be a tanky melee build. Not as much to my taste as running around quickly and stabbing people, but it suits the Infiltrator slightly more, seeing as how you don't have any dodge on it, and you got Rogue, which does. So if you still want to run your dodge melee builds, Rogue looks like a better bet, even though the build you're seeing on screen right now is not too bad at all. Anyway, that's it for Dragan. There's not too much to it. Is it worth the money? I do feel like $5 is quite a lot for what you're getting, but you're getting very high quality stuff. Better in my eyes than you did in the Clover pack. So if you deem it worth the money, if you deem the amount you're getting worth it, I will definitely stick my head above the parapet and say it's really top quality. Anyway, moving on to the heists themselves. So, the one I've really put the most time into is undoubtedly the bomb heist forest, because I can't get enough of the aesthetics of that map, as well as the overall map design. I talked about this a lot in the Diamond, and it was the main standout feature, but map design has been just the best part of Payday for a little while for me. With the recent DLCs, that has been what has carried the game in recent weeks. And again, I think they've done a really stand-up job on both maps. Both maps are huge. There's a lot to explore, a lot to see, a few secret-y type achievements to take a look at. Some of them are actually quite hard. That's something I'm obviously going to talk about later. Achievements, they're satisfying, I have to admit. Probably slightly a deceiving number of achievements. Though there are more achievements that have been in previous DLCs, that is because you get an achievement just for completing the new heists, and that does ramp it up. But a lot of the achievements are as interesting as we've been seeing lately. The achievements have been ramping up at the same sort of rate as the map design. So the heists themselves are just beautifully well designed, huge environments, and to be perfectly honest, quite an entertaining series of events go on in them. And what I like the most about this DLC is it costs the same as stuff like Big Bank, but we got 2 heists. It also cost the same as the Hotline Miami DLC, I believe. Maybe. I've just completely confused myself now. I know it cost the same as the Diamond anyway. And the Diamond was, as much as I like the map design, I think it's a fun enough mission, and it was both stealthable and you could go loud on it. It didn't have the same sort of multifaceted elements that these do, because one of them is a dedicated loud house heist. Get my words out properly. It feels that way. It feels designed to be that way, and so even the detail of where snipers are placed seems quite important on that map. But then we have the Dockyard, which is not only a well-designed map, not as well designed because it's quite hard to make a stealth map just as good a loud map, but it's almost as good as the forest for going loud, if you ask me. And then it's got a stealth element to it. So all our prayers have been answered. Not only do we have a dedicated loud heist for those of you who enjoy that, we've got a dedicated stealth heist, essentially. That's also a lot of fun. A lot more moving around is what I like to see. I love how we make the boat leave the dock, that sort of stuff. Big aesthetic differences within the map really help. It makes the heist a little more engaging. And Overkill's been doing a great job with that lately. So I won't spoil the heist too much for you, but again, there's a lot to do on them. They're not too short. They can be short, you can do them quite quickly, but they're not going to feel a bit like the Diamond. When I finished the Diamond in 15 minutes the first time I played it, I was like, oh, well, that was fun. Can I have some more? You know, it left me wanting, whereas this DLC has done quite the opposite. It left me quite satisfied because, oh yeah, that was a 20-minute heist. That was really good fun. Now what? Oh wait, there's another one that takes just as long, if not longer. Oh, good. That's brilliant. So, whereas as much as I love the content in Dragan's DLC, there's not an awful lot to it. It's quite the opposite with the bomb heist. There's an awful lot going on with them. A lot to earn, a lot to look at, and that's not even mentioning the aesthetics. Mask creation has just been really ramped up. They're a little bit cliched, spooky on the whole, but we've got more interesting masks such as the Doctor's mask, which I like to see. Now we've had the beard. We're also putting masks in all sorts of different places, so not covering entire faces. I think the first thing to do that with the glasses, and I think that's good within the game, not making it just mask based. Allowing for other sorts of different customization that lets you see the new characters that you've bought. Seems like a clever decision on Overkill's part. The materials are also more inventive than we see as usual, and to be honest, so are the patterns. And again, they've gone back to the model of earning to obtain, which I love to see, as opposed to just having to be lucky. You just got to do the achievements, which are, as I've already stressed, a lot of fun, quite diverse and interesting. So I'm not going to drag this out too long because there will be probably a fully comprehensive review for at least one of these 2 DLCs very soon. But right now, we're looking at potentially the best set of DLC. A lot of love's gone into it. Lion Game Lion has clearly poured their heart and soul into it, and I feel, first of all, not only are they excellent creations, they also run quite smoothly, considering the forest in particular seems to be quite tough to run. But they've done a good job optimizing it, which is something Overkill has been known in the past to make a slight mess of on release. But no, Lion Game Lion has had a smooth release, and incredibly impressed. Can't wait to see what these guys do in the future. It would take a lot to change my mind right now. I'm not going to do any scores just yet. We'll wait and see for that. But again, I urge you to take a further look at this if I've piqued your interest in one way or another. I hope you've enjoyed the gameplay. Stay tuned for my very serious melee build. Making melee strong is what we're going to title it, or something like that. I don't know. Maybe something slightly more powerful. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'm rambling. See you all in the next one.